Hello and welcome again. I'm sure many of you heard about Ilan Ramon. Ilan Ramon was the first Israeli astronaut that he took part with the space shuttle Columbia, and the crew was about 7 people together, and they left for many reasons, to investigate and other reasons. Unfortunately, when they came back, they were not able to come back. They broke apart while they were trying to re-entering the atmosphere, and it was a great big disaster. But very interesting, Ilan Ramon, before he left Earth, he asked the rabbis, since he feels that he wants to represent all parts of Jews in Israel, he asked the local rabbi, I think he was the rabbi of NASA, how can he observe Shabbat in space? So this rabbi went and sent this question to many rabbis, and it turned out that we have 3 different opinions in that case. The first opinion is Rabbi David Shlush from Netanya. He wrote a book about that, and he says that since we know that the space is circling around the Earth 16 times, so that it turns out that every 90 minutes it's a day. So he needs to count 6 times 90 minutes, and then he needs to observe Shabbat. But this opinion was rejected by most of the rabbis, and they came to a conclusion that he needs to count the hours exactly as he was in Earth. That means if he left America at let's say Tuesday, so Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the morning, from that time he needs to count 24 hours and another 24 hours until he gets to Shabbat, and then he needs to observe Shabbat. But they say that the hours need to be according to the place that he left. He left America, so the hours need to be according to those hours, that time, that calculation in America. Other rabbis disagree, and they say no, the calculation needs to be according to the hours, according to the time of Israel. Okay, now why am I telling all this story? The source of all this, interesting topic, comes from our Gemara. The Gemara brings us a story about a person that he lost track in the wilderness, in the desert. He doesn't remember when he left, and since he doesn't remember when he left, he doesn't remember when Shabbat comes, so he doesn't know which day to observe Shabbat. So that this particular person, the rabbis tell us that he needs to count 6 days since the day that he forgot, and then the last day, the 7th day, to observe as Shabbat. The way that he observes it is he makes kiddush in the beginning, and Havdalah at the end of Shabbat, when Shabbat is over. And Tefillin, however, he has a problem, because if we consider it as Shabbat, we're not allowed to wear Tefillin Shabbat. And if we consider it as during the week, Yom Chol, then he has the obligation to wear Tefillin. So the rabbis teach us that he needs to make a condition, stipulate that if this day, particular day is Shabbat, so in that case the straps will be kind of a decoration, and if not, it will be for the sake of the mitzvah. That's about tefillin. Now we have another discussion. What happened was the praise, the services. Which kind of praise it will praise. So it's also a dispute. The conclusion of Chacham Ovadia is that he needs to daven mincha, arvit of Shabbat, shacharit of Shabbat, mincha, but musaf he's not allowed to pray. Another important halacha is that since that he can't work, so therefore only when he feels that if he will not work, he will die. That means things that are necessarily for him for living. In that case, he's allowed to work because he came to a special category of pikuach nefesh. Pikuach nefesh. In that case, he's allowed to work in this in that particular day. Now the question is, why this person needs to observe Shabbat, since who said that it's Shabbat? Who said that that's the Shabbat? So what's the idea of making Kiddush and Havdalah, but is working all together? What's all this mixture? So Halachic HaKadosh comes and explain us that we have two different things that we need to observe on Shabbat. First, Shamor, to keep Shabbat, to observe Shabbat, and secondly, Zachor, to remember. So since this person cannot observe Shabbat in a proper way, because he doesn't know when Shabbat, okay, it doesn't mean that he doesn't need to remember when Shabbat is. So, since he needs to remember Shabbat, therefore the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Shin Mem Dalet, it tells us that he needs to remember Shabbat. And how do you remember Shabbat? By doing Kiddush and Havdalah when Shabbat is over. That's the Or HaChaim, and he brings it down from Rashi, and this comes to explain how Ilan Ramon observed Shabbat. The rabbi suggests him that even that you don't know exactly when Shabbat is, still you are not keeping Shabbat, but still you need to remember Shabbat. So it turns out, and this is the conclusion, that a person has two different obligations on Shabbat: to keep Shabbat and to remember Shabbat. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'Amen.